You're tuned in to Porch Talk with Rev Pat, where raw, real talk rules. So sit back and relax with that delicious cup of coffee or tea or your favorite glass of wine as Rev Pat delivers real, transparent, and raw conversations about all things life. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to Porch Talk. I'm your host, Rev Pat, and I am so blessed to be with you. This is my very first episode, so welcome. If you're listening, and please leave your comments and let me know what you think about this very first episode. Now, I've been instructed by my producer to basically get this right. And our very first episode has to be about why the title Porch Talk. Well, I'd have to go back a little bit and explain that to you. And I don't mind doing that so that you'll understand exactly what happens every time we gather together. I gather here in my little studio, which just happens to be my lovely master closet, because I did my research and I found out that the best place to record is in your closet. So that's where I am. But for now, every time we meet, every episode, we're actually meeting together, gathering on the porch. So Porch Talk is derived and inspired by two things. A couple of years ago, the Lord gave me an assignment to do a podcast. Well, I don't know a thing about podcasts. And because I don't know a thing about podcasts, I was disobedient. That's all I can call it. But if you're like me, I love to stay in my lane. And if I know nothing about something, especially something like a podcast, now any other thing, I'll do my research and whatever. But I just didn't, this was too far out of my lane, my comfort zone, if you know what I mean. So I was disobedient. He then gave me an assignment to create a community for women, private Facebook community. And I hesitated, but I finally did that earlier this year. And the name of that community is called Chosen Covered. Well, over the last couple of months since I launched the community, I was praying about ways to get the women, the sisters, engaged and active, if you know what I mean. I knew that God did not want this community to be just like any other Facebook quote-unquote group. That's why I use the word community, because this is a place that the Lord wanted His daughters to gather and encourage one another, learn more about Him through teaching of the Word and all of that. I won't dive into the details about that, but you're welcome to join called Chosen Covered, should you want to check it out after you listen to this, my very first podcast. Let me throw that little plug in there. So a couple of months ago, I was praying about how to get the women active in the community. So I came up with this idea that we would meet together maybe once a month. I would throw that out there and make that as a suggestion. What if we just meet once a month or whatever was convenient, and just come together on a Zoom and just talk about anything, nothing in particular. Just talk about being women, talk about our challenges in a real open, honest, transparent, frank way. And I was really praying about that. And not that much later, after I really started praying about that, the Lord had me reflect on some times when I was younger. And I'll be honest with you, there's not a lot about my childhood that I remember. And that is the catalyst also for the episodes. But that's further down the line. Let's just deal with what we're working with right now, which is the very first one. Let me get through this one. And so as I reflected on my childhood, He brought to my remembrance that one of the most peaceful times I had, happiest times, was sitting on my parents' front porch. We had a porch swing, and going out on that porch and sitting in that porch swing and either taking my little Harlequin Romance, yes, I said Harlequin Romance books. I had a subscription, don't judge me. Taking one of my books and sitting out on the porch, on the swing, or the conversations that I had with my little neighbor down the street, or with my cousins that lived across the street. That's two things that I love to do on that porch while sitting on that swing. Third, I would take my journal, and I would go out and I'd sit on the swing, and I could be there for hours if nobody called me or bothered me. I had younger brothers and sisters, but that was like my little escape. And later on, as I delve into my experiences growing up, you'll understand why. But this was my escape. And he revealed that to me, and I could really envision that swing. I'm telling you, that porch and that swing. They were a place of refuge for me, a place of escape, all of that, even at that young age, probably between my 10, 11, 12, going into my teenage years. So he brought that back to my remembrance, but I didn't really connect it. Then he allowed me to remember that I used to sit and watch old talk shows. I mean, really old. Like Mike Douglas was my favorite talk show. Mike Douglas. There was something about the Mike Douglas show. There was something about watching Diana, I think her name was Diana Shore show. I'm really telling my age here. Her conversations were all very just, they'd sit on the couch. She'd sit on the couch next to her, I guess, and she'd have the conversation. It was just like she was just having company over. Mike Douglas, kind of similar, no couch, but the easy way that he talked with his guest. And I could imagine myself doing that. So I literally actually, in college, majored in telecommunications and minored in journalism. I loved writing, and I loved the idea of talking to people. In specific, I actually wanted, my dream was to become a female sports announcer. If you can believe it, I was way ahead of my time. Can you imagine if that had happened? I think about that often when I'm watching a football game or even baseball games. We've come a long way. So he brought that to my remembrance. And if you know, like I know, he will give you nuggets of things, but we don't put it together. And especially if it's something really far out of your comfort zone. So I really didn't put it together. And then when I began to really ponder the idea of the women gathering together and meeting together and just talking, I envisioned in my mind conversations much like those that I had with my friend and with my cousins that lived across the street. They were conversations of ease. You could just be a teenage girl and talk about the boys you liked or the boys that you didn't like and the boys you had crushes on, which that was me. That was me. I had crushes on a lot of folk, but I was a nerd, and none of the people that I had a crush on were interested in me. But hey, they missed out. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So, as an aside, let me tell you, if you know, like I know, that you had a crush on the football star or the most popular guy or whatever, and they just totally ignored you, aren't you so proud of what you turned out to be? Aren't you glad that you are so gorgeous? And he's probably somewhere with a belly that's hanging over his belt, and he wouldn't recognize you if you tapped him on the shoulder. And I can tell you, I had that happen, but that's a story for another time. I'm just encouraging all of my sisters that were like me, that were nerdy with the eyeglasses and the books and straight A's and all of that, and nobody even paid attention to you. We grew up well. I fixed up well. But anyway, again, I digress. Let's get back to Porch Talk. So, he brought those two things to my remembrance, and then he whispered in my spirit, Porch Talk. And I had that aha moment. Porch Talk. That's what I'll call the little Saturday meetings. I'll call it Porch Talk. Well, God really had something totally different planned. And He proved it by bringing into my life my beautiful producer, Gail. He sent her, y'all. Let me tell you, if you have a dream or a vision or an assignment on you, He will send what you need. He sent this beautiful woman, this sister in Christ, and had her tap me on my shoulders and said, basically, you know what you need to do. Well, here we are. This is the first episode of Porch Talk, and it's not within the group. And from the moment we connected, I knew that God had sent her, and I knew that it was time to do this. Because when I think of Porch Talk, and I want you to envision this when you hear me say, or you see Porch Talk, think about friends. Think about summer days with a glass of, well, for some of you all lemonade, but for me, Kool-Aid. The ease with which you get to conversate. And for me, it was really important that I had that time. I had the time to think about who I am, to think about the things that were going on around me, to commiserate and fill my diary and back then diary, journal, whatever you want to call it, with all of the things that I could not say. On the porch, while sitting in that swing, I could verbalize in my diary the things that I was not allowed to speak or to say. Because when you're in an environment where you are silenced, where your voice is silenced, because of the things going on around you, you need an escape. And I'm a wordy person. I love writing. I love talking. And to not be able to express anger, frustration, any of that was stifling for me. So the porch was my escape. Everybody handles the situations in life different, and I'm not bashing that. But on that porch, I could be free. I could talk about the things that really bothered me, that I was being taught to bury. And let me say this, and I know that there are others that will hear this. There comes a point in time when, as an adult, mature woman, you must make peace with your past. You must make peace with the mistakes that others made. And you must reconcile to yourself that they were simply doing the best they could. They were simply doing the best they could. And when we do that, and we couple it with the forgiveness that must be attached to it, we are free. And so Porch Talk, the podcast, represents to me freedom. I'm freed. My voice, I have my voice now. At 62 years old, I have my voice. I can verbalize the things that I couldn't verbalize as a 14, 15-year-old girl, 17, 18. I was muted. And God has given me permission to speak, literally. I am a minister of His Word. I preach His Word. I teach His Word. I love His Word. But there was a time when I served Him as a woman who was well and not a woman who was whole. And once I became whole in every way, forgiving, accepting His healing, He released me. And that release came right before He sent Miguel. So for you, my friends, my dear friends, when we meet, when you sit around and gather to listen, when you listen to Porch Talk, you're listening to a woman who is free. A woman who knows her worth and her value in spite of all of the things that were poured into her, all of the things that happened to her, all of the things that the enemy really, really used to try and prevent her from becoming who she is now. And there are days and there are moments and there are times when that girl on that porch, on that swing, with that Harlequin romance, with that journal, with those friends, with those cousins, hey, she's still here. She shows up sometimes when I don't want her to show up. The residue of the things that I have forgiven and the things that I have been healed from sometimes show up. But in the process of healing, it's just that. It's residue. It's no longer a part of me. So Porch Talk is all of that. Porch Talk is my being able to revisit but not relive my past. And if you see the tagline says, turning messes into messages. Well, my messes are my messages. And some of the mess was not of my own doing. But it is still attached to me. It is still a part of me. When I give you this invitation to join me on the porch, I'm inviting you to be able to hear me and to be able to see you in me. If you're like me, or I want something to resonate. And some of what we do on the porch will cause us to laugh like crazy. Some of what we do on the porch will cause tears, will evoke emotions. And my prayer, my sincerest prayer is that should that happen for you, that it also bring healing and joy and peace and forgiveness. Now, we can't see one another, but I pray that you will hear my heart, that you will hear my heart. And Porch Talk is not mine, and it's not Gail's. We agreed to give this assignment back to God so that he could have his way. Now, I am a believer. I am a minister. I don't back down on who I am. So I lovingly and openly share what he gives me to share. And I know my audience is only comprised of those that he will send. And I've made a commitment to do as he's instructed me to do. So that's Porch Talk. Porch Talk is me, and Porch Talk is you, and Porch Talk is your best friend. Porch Talk is your sister. Porch Talk is your cousin that you sat with and bared your soul with. All of those. That's what Porch Talk is about. So, my friend, every week I invite you to join me on the porch. As I sit and record this, I have my cup of coffee. I have two favorite drinks, coffee and Coca-Cola. Coffee and Coca-Cola. So I'll either have my cup of coffee or a Coke, and I invite you to join me with your favorite drink, be it wine, be it coffee, be it tea, whatever it is. I invite you to join me right here on the porch each and every week. And we're going to laugh and we're going to talk. Well, I'll talk, you listen. Just be ready to receive. This is all unscripted. I don't use a script. I will pour my heart out to you as God gives it to me. But I want you to look forward to our time together. So, once again, this is Porch Talk, and I am your host, Rev Pat, and I will meet you on the porch next week. Be blessed, my friends. Be blessed.